Have you ever had one of those moments where you look around and realize no one's really there? Maybe you're sitting in your favorite chair, listening to the same clock tick on the wall, or staring out the window at a world that seems to be moving on without you. The phone hasn't rung in days. No one asks how you're doing. And suddenly, it hits you. What happens if one day you really do need help, but there's no one to call? That's not just a passing thought. It's a fear many people carry as they grow older. It's the quiet worry that maybe, just maybe, we've built our lives around others so much that we've forgotten how to stand on our own. And that's where today's message comes in. Because what if I told you, you don't need to rely on anyone to live a meaningful, peaceful, and empowered life? That within you, right now, is the strength, the clarity, and the freedom you've been searching for all along? This isn't about shutting people out. It's about learning how to live without emotional dependency. It's about letting go of the belief that someone else must complete us or be the reason we feel safe, loved, or valuable. And if that sounds hard, especially after a lifetime of giving, loving, and sharing your life with others, then trust me, you're not alone. But you can learn. You can choose peace over fear, strength over sadness, and self-reliance over waiting. So let's talk about how. Let's begin with the first powerful lesson: no one is obligated to stay. It's a tough truth, one that may feel a little cold at first. But stick with me here. You see, many of us were raised to believe that love means forever. That if we give our best, people will stay. That loyalty is a given. But life doesn't work like that. People leave. Children grow up and move away. Friends get caught up in their own lives. Even the strongest bonds can fade over time. And that doesn't mean you did something wrong. It just means people change, and so do circumstances. When we tie our happiness to someone else's presence, we're building our foundation on sand. One storm, and everything crumbles. That's why this first lesson matters so much. Not because we want to become bitter or isolated, but because understanding this truth frees us. It reminds us that we are not owed affection, attention, or presence. And once we accept that, we stop being disappointed every time someone doesn't meet our expectations. I knew a man named George, a good man. He was the kind who always showed up, family birthdays, neighbors' yard work, even helping strangers fix a flat tire. After his wife passed, he looked forward to seeing his grown children more often. But their visits grew fewer and fewer. One day, George said something I'll never forget. He said, "I thought love guaranteed company, but I've realized now that even love has its own limits." He wasn't angry. He was just awake. And from that point on, he stopped waiting by the phone. He started walking in the mornings. He read books. He began living for himself again. And you know what? That's when his peace returned. Which brings me to the second lesson. The fear of being alone is far more dangerous than loneliness itself. It's not the quiet house that hurts, it's the way we feel about it. It's the thoughts that creep in. Why doesn't anyone care? Or, what's the point of anything if no one's here to share it? But I want to tell you something. Loneliness is not a punishment. It's an invitation. An invitation to rediscover who you are when no one else is watching. For years, we've been told that companionship is the path to happiness. That having a partner or being surrounded by loved ones is what makes life complete. But the truth is, happiness isn't found in who you're with. It's found in how you live, no matter who's around. When we fear solitude, we begin to cling. We stay in unhealthy relationships. We tolerate disrespect. We silence ourselves just to keep the peace. And in doing so, we lose parts of ourselves little by little. But what if you could flip that fear around? What if time alone became your sanctuary instead of your prison? That's where the real shift begins. Not by forcing people out of your life, but by choosing to enjoy your own company. Go for a walk not because someone asked you to, but because it clears your mind. Make your coffee just the way you like it. Sit in silence and listen, not to a TV or a podcast, but to your own thoughts, your own memories, your own heartbeat. That's the kind of solitude that heals. There's a quote that says, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." Imagine if, instead of reaching out for someone to save us from our silence, we stepped into it like a calm lake, letting it soothe us instead of scare us. You might be thinking, "But I'm not used to being alone. It feels empty." And that's okay. Emptiness is the beginning of creation. When the noise fades, there's finally room to build something new, something lasting, something yours. You see, life changes whether we're ready or not, and we don't get to control who stays or who leaves. But we do get to decide what we'll do with the space they leave behind. Will we fill it with regret? Or will we plant something beautiful in it, like strength, clarity, or purpose? The third lesson is perhaps the most humbling. What you give doesn't guarantee what you'll get. I know that's hard to hear, especially for those of us who've spent years, maybe decades, putting others first. Raising children, supporting a spouse, being the reliable one, the caregiver, the rock. And then one day, when we need someone, there's silence. That silence can feel like betrayal. Like everything we gave meant nothing. But it's not that simple. The truth is, we don't give to others because we expect them to return the favor. We give because that's who we are. And holding on to resentment only poisons the well we drink from. Think about it this way. If you offered someone a gift out of love and they never said thank you, does that erase the love behind the gesture? No. The love still existed. It still mattered. It was still real. Wisdom teaches us that we must give without keeping score. That gratitude is a gift, not a debt. When you stop expecting a thank you, or a visit, or a call, you make space for peace. You stop carrying the weight of disappointment, and you begin to feel light again. There was a woman I met named Lillian. She was in her late 70s, and she'd spent most of her life caring for others, siblings, children, her husband when he was ill. But in her later years, she found herself mostly alone. At first, she was heartbroken. She felt invisible. But then she started journaling, just a few lines each morning. She wrote what she was grateful for. She made soup for herself with the same care she once gave others. She told me, "I've stopped waiting for someone to appreciate me. I finally appreciate myself." And that, my friend, is real freedom. You see, every time you let go of what you can't control, you pick up something better. Peace, self-respect, and a sense of power that doesn't depend on anyone else's approval. And that's a life worth living. Let's keep going. Because once you begin to see these truths for what they are, not threats, but tools, you'll never see your solitude the same way again. Now that you're beginning to see your own strength more clearly, it's time to dig deeper, because the next truth can be the hardest to accept, but it also carries the most power. It's the idea that your peace, your stability, your sense of worth must come from the inside out, not the outside in. You see, we live in a world that teaches us to look outward for everything. Validation, love, identity, even purpose. But the danger in that is simple. The outside world is constantly changing. People change. Circumstances change. Even your own body changes. And if your sense of peace depends on things that shift like the wind, then peace will always be just out of reach. That's why this next lesson matters so much. Your mind must become your refuge. Not your escape, not your fantasy, but your stronghold. The place where you retreat not because you're hiding, but because it's safe. Because it's solid. Because it's yours. Most people never build this place. Not really. They spend their whole lives absorbing whatever emotions, criticisms, or expectations the world throws at them. They believe every thought that pops into their head, every voice that says, "You're not enough," or "You're too late." And after years of doing this, they start to feel small, weak, tired. Not because they are, but because they've given their inner space away. Imagine if your mind were like your home. Would you leave the front door open to anyone who wanted to walk in and dump their mess? Would you let fear walk in every morning and sit at the kitchen table, or regret lie down in your bed at night? Of course not. But that's exactly what happens when we don't protect the space inside us. Wise thinkers have long understood this truth. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. That doesn't mean we won't have bad days or painful experiences. It means we get to decide what we do with those experiences, whether we let them shape us or shake us, harden us or strengthen us. Building a strong mind doesn't happen overnight. It's not about pretending things don't hurt. It's about learning how to respond to that pain in a way that makes you stronger, not smaller. When a hurtful memory shows up, you can say, "I see you, but you don't control me." When you feel invisible, you can remind yourself, "I matter, even if no one notices right now." And when life feels unfair, you can breathe and return to what you can control: your actions, your words, your focus, your choices. Take small steps. Start your day with a quiet moment, not your phone. Write down one thing you're grateful for. Read something that lifts your mind instead of weighs it down. Choose thoughts that support you, not thoughts that tear you down. You are not powerless in your own mind. You are the gatekeeper. Now here's where we step into a lesson that often comes later in life, usually through heartbreak. It's the lesson of learning how to lose without losing yourself. This one touches deep because by the time we reach our 60s, 70s, or 80s, we've all lost something. Someone we loved. A version of ourselves. Health. Dreams. Roles we used to hold. And each loss can feel like a piece of us has been taken too. But here's the truth. Loss is not the enemy. Attachment is. Not love, attachment. Love flows. Attachment grips. And when we grip too tightly to what life is asking us to let go of, we suffer more than we need to. It's okay to mourn what's gone. It's human. But it's also okay to let yourself evolve. You are not the same person you were at 30. And that's not a failure. It's proof that you're still growing. We were never meant to stay the same. Life peels back our layers again and again, not to punish us, but to reveal what's real underneath it all. Your worth does not depend on who still needs you. You're not valuable because you play a certain role or wear a certain title. You are valuable because you are here, still breathing, still learning, still capable of creating something meaningful from what remains. Think of it this way. A tree doesn't mourn its leaves when they fall in autumn. It knows that life works in cycles, that new leaves come, that the core, the trunk, the roots stay strong through every season. And you too have a core. You may have let others define you in the past: mother, provider, caregiver, husband, best friend. But underneath all that, there is you. Not the roles, not the achievements, just your essence. And that is unshakable, if you learn to honor it. It takes courage to stand in front of the mirror and say, "I am not who I used to be, but I am still me, and I am enough." When you lose a relationship, or your health changes, or you feel forgotten by those you once gave your all to, remember, you are still whole. No one, not even time, can take that from you unless you give it away. There's something profoundly beautiful about letting go without bitterness, about learning to say goodbye with grace, not just to people, but to seasons of life. When you stop resisting change, you begin to dance with it. And that's when life feels lighter, even in the face of loss. Now, there's one more truth I want to share in this part of our conversation. It's not easy to face, but it's freeing once you do. It's this: not everyone deserves a place in your life just because they've been in it a long time. This is where real independence begins, not with solitude, but with discernment. Many of us carry relationships like old furniture. It's been there forever, so we leave it, even if it doesn't fit who we are now. Even if it makes us uncomfortable. Even if it clutters the space we desperately need to breathe. But your life is not a storage unit. It's your sanctuary. And the people in it should support your peace, not disturb it. You don't need to cut people off with anger. But you do need to start choosing with clarity. Ask yourself, does this person add to my life or just take from it? If a relationship drains you more than it fills you, it may be time to step back, not out of cruelty, but out of love for yourself. Your time, your energy, your presence, that's a gift. And it should only be shared with those who treat it as such. You've given so much to others in your life. You've earned the right to be intentional now, to choose people who respect you, who listen, who uplift, who show up. And if that means your circle becomes smaller, let it become stronger. Quality over quantity, always. Remember, saying no to someone else can be saying yes to yourself. And that's not selfish. That's wise. That's strong. That's free. You're beginning to see it now, aren't you? That living without depending on anyone isn't about closing yourself off. It's about opening up to the strength that's been within you all along. You don't need saving. You don't need fixing. You just need to remember who you are when everything else falls away. There's something quietly powerful about reaching a point in life where you no longer feel the need to explain yourself, to chase after validation, or to hold on to what no longer feels right. That kind of clarity doesn't come quickly. It comes from experience, from disappointment, from finally asking yourself the question, what kind of life do I want to live, truly? You've come this far, not just in this message, but in your life. You've endured more than most people will ever know. You've loved, you've lost, you've built, and you've given your best. And now, maybe for the first time, you're ready to reclaim something that was always yours, your freedom to choose. And that's the final lesson, the one that ties everything else together. Real independence is not about being alone. It's about knowing how to choose. Not from fear, not from habit, but from wisdom. You see, many people confuse independence with isolation. They think being strong means never needing anyone, never asking for help, never opening up. But that's not strength. That's fear in disguise. Real strength is quiet. It doesn't need to shout. It doesn't need to prove. It just knows. Knows when to open the door and when to close it. Knows who adds to your life and who drains it. Knows that love is not about possession, but about presence. And that sometimes letting go is the most loving thing you can do. Think of your life like a garden. For decades, you've planted seeds, relationships, routines, beliefs, even identities. Some have grown into beautiful trees. Others maybe have become weeds. Now is the season to tend to that garden, to prune, to clear space, to make room for what truly nourishes you. You don't need to fill your days with people or noise just to avoid a little quiet. Silence isn't emptiness. It's space. And space is sacred when you learn to use it well. Choosing who gets access to your life isn't about judgment. It's about discernment. Not everyone who has been part of your past deserves a place in your future. And not everyone who wants to be close has earned the right to stand beside you. That might sound harsh, but it's not meant to close your heart. It's meant to protect it. Because your time, especially now, is sacred. You don't owe it to anyone. Not out of guilt. Not out of fear. And certainly not out of routine. The friendships that once felt comforting, but now feel forced. The family ties that expect everything but offer little in return. The conversations that leave you drained instead of lifted. You know what I'm talking about. And deep down, you've probably known for a while. But here's the good news. You can choose differently. You can choose peace over noise, truth over comfort, depth over habit. And that one decision, repeated over time, will change your life. Let me tell you about Clara. She was 78 when she finally admitted to herself that a friend she'd known for over 40 years had become more of a burden than a blessing. Every phone call was filled with complaints. Every visit left Clara feeling smaller, more exhausted. But she kept showing up. Why? Because of guilt. Because of the past. Because, as she put it, we've known each other so long. But one afternoon, after another draining conversation, she sat down and asked herself something new. If I just met this person today, would I want her in my life? The answer was no. That moment didn't come with drama or a big goodbye. Just a quiet step back. Less contact. More space. And over time, Clara noticed something surprising. She had more energy. More clarity. More room for people who actually cared. She told me later, I stopped being polite with my peace. You can do the same. You don't have to keep anyone in your life just because they've always been there. You don't have to say yes when your whole being is saying no. You don't have to feel guilty for protecting your well-being. That's not selfish. That's wise. And it's also brave. Because here's something not many people will tell you. Choosing your own path doesn't mean walking it alone. It just means you're not afraid to walk it alone if you have to. That difference is everything. When you build your life from the inside out, when you strengthen your mind, when you stop expecting others to complete you, you attract a different kind of connection. One based not on need, but on resonance, on mutual respect, on joy. And yes, there might be fewer people, but the ones who remain will be real. The conversations will be lighter. The relationships will feel easier. You won't feel the pressure to prove yourself, to entertain, to shrink. You can simply be. And isn't that the kind of life we all want as we get older? One where we don't have to perform, where we don't have to pretend, where we are loved, not for what we give, but for who we are. Let that be your new standard. You've spent too many years trying to make everyone else comfortable. Now it's your turn. To rest. To choose. To be at ease in your own skin. And if some people don't understand, that's okay. Not everyone will. But you're not here to live someone else's life. You're here to live your own, with grace, courage, and freedom. You've earned that right. So take a moment right now. Breathe. Feel your shoulders soften. Feel the space around you, not as something missing, but as something full of possibility. You're not behind. You're not broken. You're simply becoming more you than ever before. And there's nothing lonely about that. This journey toward emotional independence, toward peace, toward a life that isn't built on anyone else's choices, is not a rejection of others. It's a return to yourself. It's a homecoming. And every day that you wake up and choose your own peace, your own truth, your own rhythm, you are saying to the world, I may be older, but I am not finished. I may be alone, but I am not empty. I may be quiet, but I am not lost. I am here, and I am whole. You don't need anyone to rescue you. You never did. What you needed was time, wisdom, and the courage to step fully into your own life. And now you're doing it. If this message spoke to you, I hope you'll take a moment to share how you're feeling in the comments. You never know who might read your words and feel less alone because of them. And if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe. There's a community here, quiet, kind, real, who are on this journey too. Together, we remind each other of what matters most, living with dignity, with depth, and with joy, no matter our age. You've got this. And we're walking beside you, each step of the way. Here's to living your truth on your terms. Here's to a life that feels light, whole, and beautifully yours.